Morning.
Got an interesting one for you. I know you look Bugattis.
Is it fully crew?
Yeah, basically it's a Mansory.
Let's ask. Look at that, What's missing?
A gearbox.
So, are you going to put that together, Mark?
That's your job.
You can't do that in a garage. There's just a few places in the world with the right equipment, and only a few people in the world with the right training to be able to do that. Those were the words of Bugatti's own CEO, delivered directly to camera, a carefully worded public statement aimed at discouraging anyone from attempting independent repairs on the company's hypercars. It was a message meant to settle the matter. It was meant to draw a line. But lines once drawn tend to invite people who want to cross them. The automotive world has been watching closely, and Bugatti will not like where this is headed. While the company is still publicly distancing itself from Matt Armstrong's controversial Chiron Pur Sport rebuild in Miami, another development has quietly escalated the tension to a place the brand never anticipated. Another YouTuber has just bought a broken Bugatti, and his first phone call wasn't to Bugatti headquarters in Molsheim. It wasn't to an authorized service center in London or Paris. It wasn't on any name on any approved list anywhere in the world. It was to Matt Armstrong. That single decision, made casually, almost instinctively, speaks volumes about where the power in this industry is quietly migrating. In 2026, what is unfolding between these two projects may fundamentally change hypercar ownership forever. Mark McCann has just spent £900,000 on a Bugatti Veyron. That doesn't work. By the time auction fees, transport, and logistics are accounted for, he is $1.1 million deep into a car that won't even drive under its own power. The gearbox is completely broken. There is no reverse gear. The car has been sitting off the road for 3 years, untouched, unsold, waiting for someone either brave enough or foolish enough to take the gamble. For most buyers, that would be financial insanity, the kind of reckless decision that ends careers and drains accounts. But this isn't just any Veyron. It's a Mansory Vivere edition, one of the rarest and most aggressively customized Veyrons ever produced. Originally modified for Middle Eastern royalty, with over 300,000 euros in bespoke upgrades layered on top of the base car, it features fully exposed carbon fiber bodywork, polished metal arches, a wildly vibrant interior stitched and trimmed to a specification that exists nowhere else on Earth. When functioning properly, a car like this is worth at least $1.6 million. Right now, however, it is a £900,000 sculpture. Beautiful, rare, and completely immobile. Bugatti's official repair quote came in at £300,000, just to replace the gearbox. One component, one invoice larger than most family homes. £300,000. And that figure assumes Bugatti agrees to perform the work at all, which, given recent tensions with independent rebuilders, is far from guaranteed. Mark heard the number. He understood the weight of it. And instead of calling Bugatti back to schedule the appointment, he picked up the phone and called Matt. Think about that decision carefully. When faced with near £1 million gamble on one of the rarest Bugattis in existence, Mark McCann's trusted advisor wasn't a factory-certified technician. It wasn't someone wearing a Bugatti-approved uniform in a sterile facility in Molsheim. It was a self-taught YouTuber from Lancashire with zero official Bugatti credentials. The same Matt Armstrong currently rebuilding a crash-damaged Chiron Pur Sport in a rented Miami workshop, despite Bugatti's explicit refusal to support the project. The same Matt Armstrong who discovered that Bugatti had flagged the Chiron's chassis number so aggressively that no parts could be purchased through any official channel. We later found that on that chassis number, they would not supply any component, not a filter, not a seal, not a bolt. The same Matt Armstrong who was indirectly but unmistakably addressed by Bugatti CEO in that public video. The one designed to remind the world that these cars are too complex, too specialized, too sacred for independent hands. And yet here he is. Despite every official barrier, despite corporate resistance and public statements, Matt Armstrong had become, against all of Bugatti's preferences, the internet's most visible independent Bugatti specialist. Not because he sought the title, but because he refused to accept that the title could only belong to those of factory approved. When Mark called him on camera to reveal the broken Veyron and asked for guidance, the conversation revealed exactly why Bugatti is concerned. "Morning," Matt said. "Got an interesting one for you," Mark replied, And then he showed the car, the Mansory bodywork gleaming under workshop light. The interior still stunning despite years of dormancy, and that dead gearbox lurking underneath it all like a buried secret. Is it the full Mansory kit? Matt asked. Yeah, basically the full conversion. So what's missing? A gearbox, Mark said, and in the silence that followed, you could almost hear the calculation happening in real time, not reckless enthusiasm, not blind guesswork, measured analysis. Matt discussed potential gearbox solutions, the reality of part sourcing, alternative repair paths that existed outside the factory ecosystem, and realistic cost breakdowns that painted a very different picture than Bugatti's 300,000-pound quote. Then came the line that should unsettle every corporate boardroom in the luxury automotive world. You're the man to get Bugatti parts as well, aren't you? Mark said. You've got inside connections. Matt responded with the kind of sarcasm that only works when everyone already knows the truth. Oh, yeah, he said. They love me. The studio laughed, but underneath the humor, the message was razor sharp. Bugatti may not love him. They may refuse to sell him parts directly. They may publicly discourage everything he represents. But Matt has built relationships the factory never sanctioned. He has located suppliers the factory never approved. He has mapped out alternative channels the factory never intended to exist. He has proven repeatedly and publicly that parts, knowledge, and expertise can thrive outside the official ecosystem. And every time that happens, every time a part is sourced independently, every time a repair is completed without factory oversight, the monopoly cracks just a little more. Here is where the story stops being a YouTube drama and becomes genuinely dangerous, at least from Bugatti's perspective. The economics tell a story the brand would rather keep quiet. Bugatti quoted £300,000 for a gearbox replacement. That is the official route. Take it or leave it. No negotiation. No alternatives offered. No acknowledgement that alternatives could even exist. But Matt's insight painted a very different picture. Even in the absolute worst-case scenario, even if Mark paid Bugatti's full replacement price without question, he would have $1.4 million invested in a car worth roughly $1.6 million. That is still a margin. Tight but workable. The gamble holds even under the harshest assumptions. However, Matt knows something far more powerful than worst-case arithmetic. He knows that independent specialists exist. In Germany, engineers have demonstrated the ability to rebuild Veyron gearboxes for roughly £150,000, half the official cost. Same function, same engineering outcome, same gearbox, return to full operation, without a single invoice routed through Molsheim. That single piece of knowledge changes everything. Because if independent rebuilds cut service costs in half, the economic logic underpinning Bugatti's entire pricing structure begins to unravel. The mystique remains. No one disputes that. The engineering brilliance remains. The beauty, the history, the sheer audacity of a 16-cylinder quad-turbo hypercar, all of that stays intact. But the justification for extreme service premiums, the idea that only Bugatti can maintain a Bugatti, weakens. It weakens not because someone made a cheaper part. It weakens because someone proved the existing parts can be serviced competently outside factory walls. Matt encouraged Mark to proceed, not because he was reckless, not because he underestimated the complexity, but because independent options make the numbers viable in situations where official channels nearly don't. The factory route demands $300,000 and offers no guarantees of cooperation. The independent route demands patience, resourcefulness, and mechanical courage, but it halves the cost and returns control to the owner. This is the knowledge Bugatti doesn't want circulating freely, and it is circulating to millions. What is forming right now, in real time, across YouTube videos and workshop floors and international phone calls, isn't just two separate rebuild projects. It is the emergence of an independent Bugatti service network. Matt sits at its center, not as a factory-approved technician, but as something the factory never planned for, a coordinator of distributed talent. There is Bob, the aluminum welding specialist, handling structural repairs with a precision that rivals anything coming out of a factory jig. There are composite experts repairing carbon fiber to near indistinguishable quality, layering resin and cloth with the patience of restorers working on old masters. There are fabricators creating bespoke solutions when original parts are either unavailable or priced beyond reason. There are international specialists scattered across Europe with genuine hands-on Bugatti experience. People who once worked inside the system and now operate willingly outside its corporate constraints. Mark McCann is now tapping into that same ecosystem for his Mansory Veyron. The knowledge gained from tearing down and rebuilding the Chiron Pur Sport feeds directly into smarter decisions on the Veyron project. The suppliers discovered during one build become shared resources for the next. The obstacles overcome in Miami become documented roadmaps for Lancashire. Every solved problem becomes a public tutorial. Every dead end becomes a warning sign for the next person to navigate around. This is how monopolies weaken, not through courtroom battles or hostile regulation, through shared expertise, through transparency, through the quiet, relentless accumulation of knowledge in places the monopoly holder cannot reach. Every successful independent repair reduces the fear that keeps owners dependent. Every documented teardown demystifies the complexity that justifies extreme invoices. Every independently sourced part proves that alternatives exist. Bugatti's control over its aftermarket relied heavily on one principle: information asymmetry. They knew how to fix the cars, and customers did not. The engineering was deliberately opaque. The service procedures were closely guarded. The parts catalogs were restricted. The message was consistent and clear. You need us. You will always need us. Do not attempt this alone. But once that knowledge is shared publicly, broadcast to millions through cameras mounted on workshop benches, the asymmetry dissolves. The impossible doesn't become easy, but it becomes merely difficult. And difficulty has never stopped people like Matt Armstrong. The parts pricing alone reveals the scale of the control being challenged. Headlights for a Chiron, 150,000 euros. A bonnet, 50,000 euros. A bumper, 80,000 euros. Each figure was designed not just to cover manufacturing costs, but to reinforce a message. This car is beyond you. Its maintenance is beyond your resources. Its complexity is beyond your comprehension. Come to us or suffer the consequences. But when independent builders document sourcing those same components through alternative channels, when they show the markup laid bare, when they demonstrate that the complexity is real but not insurmountable, the message loses its power. Not all at once, but steadily, irreversibly. Bugatti can refuse to supply parts directly, and they have. They can issue policy statements discouraging independent work, and they have. They can cite safety standards and brand integrity and the sacred responsibility of maintaining vehicles capable of 250 miles per hour, and all of that is within their rights as a manufacturer. No one disputes their authority to protect their brand. No one disputes that these are extraordinarily complex machines deserving of respect and caution, but they cannot share knowledge. They cannot erase documented rebuilds that have already been viewed by millions. They cannot stop independent specialists from refining their craft with every project completed. They cannot fully control a secondary parts market that spans continents and operates through relationships built on trust rather than trademarks. And they cannot prevent owners from seeking alternatives once those owners realize alternatives exist. You cannot unring that bell. What we are witnessing is something larger than a dispute between a car company and a YouTuber. It is a philosophical confrontation. Does hypercar ownership mean permanent corporate oversight? Does spending £2 million on a machine mean accepting lifelong dependency on the company that built it? Or does ownership, real ownership, mean autonomy? Does the act of purchase transfer not just a vehicle, but the right to maintain it, modify it, repair it, and restore it by whatever means the owner sees fit? Bugatti's model has historically leaned toward controlled exclusivity, curated service experiences, protected brand aura, a tightly managed ecosystem where every touchpoint reinforces the idea that Bugatti ownership is a relationship, not a transaction, and that relationship comes with rules. But independence challenges that structure, not recklessly, not dangerously, systematically, with evidence, with documentation, with results that speak for themselves. Matt Armstrong did not set out to spark a revolution. He set out to rebuild a crashed Chiron because it was an engineering challenge that fascinated him. It was a puzzle, a mountain, Something everyone said couldn't be done, which for a certain kind of mind is the most compelling reason to attempt it. But by documenting the process honestly, by showing every setback and breakthrough and frustration and triumph, he turned what could have been a private workshop project into public education. And education, once released, does not respect corporate boundaries. It spreads. It replicates. It empowers. It creates the next generation of people willing to try. Right now, 2 Bugatti projects are unfolding simultaneously, separated by an ocean but connected by philosophy. In Miami, a crashed Chiron Pur Sport is being brought back to life in a rented workshop without a single thread of factory support. This is it, Matt said when he first walked into that space. This is where we're rebuilding it. We're going to do it right here. In the United Kingdom, a Mansory Vivere sits under bright lights awaiting Gearbox salvation, with independent economics making the project not just viable but sensible. Both projects bypass official dependency. Both share their knowledge publicly with audiences numbering in the millions. Both prove, with every bolt turned and every panel fitted, that independence is not fantasy. It is not recklessness. It is not disrespect. It is a capability. Bugatti is not just confronting one YouTuber with a ratchet and a camera. They are confronting the rise of an entirely alternative model of hypercar ownership, one where builders collaborate across borders, where expertise is not confined to factory walls, where transparency replaces mystique as the currency of trust, where an owner with a broken gearbox calls the person most likely to fix it, not the person most authorized to charge for it. This is not about safety shortcuts. No one involved in these projects is cutting corners or ignoring engineering tolerances. This is about control, about who holds it, about whether it should be held at all once a car leaves a factory floor. Every successful independent rebuild sends a signal into the market, quiet but unmistakable. The monopoly is not technically necessary. It is strategically constructed. And once enough customers understand that distinction, the leverage shifts in ways that cannot be reversed. The confrontation between Bugatti and independent builders is not truly about one Chiron or one Veyron. It is about the future of exotic car ownership itself. Who controls these machines after the wire transfer clears and the keys change hands? Does purchasing a £2 million hypercar mean signing an invisible contract of lifelong dependency? Or does it mean what ownership has always meant for every other machine ever built, the right to do with it as you see fit, to choose your own mechanic, to source your own parts, to take your chances and accept your consequences? The answers being written right now, in Miami workshops and Lancashire garages, will shape not just Bugatti's future, but the trajectory of the broader hypercar industry. Other manufacturers are watching, closely, quietly, taking notes. Because if independence proves sustainable, if these rebuilds succeed, and the cars drive and the engineering holds and the owners are satisfied, the model will ripple outward. What starts with Bugatti will not end with Bugatti. Matt Armstrong did not aim to become a symbol. He is a mechanic who likes difficult cars and owns a camera. But through persistence, through radical transparency, through the simple act of documenting what others said could not be done, he is becoming something more powerful than a rebuilder. He is becoming proof. Proof that complexity can be understood by those willing to study it. Proof that exclusivity can be challenged by those willing to work for it. Proof that knowledge, once shared publicly, cannot be reclaimed by those who once hoarded it. The shift did not announce itself with press releases or keynote presentations. There was no single moment when the tide turned. It happened in garages that smelled of brake cleaner and ambition, in WhatsApp groups where owners traded part numbers like contraband, in late-night phone calls between a man in Dubai and a machinist in rural Pennsylvania who had never touched a hypercar but understood tolerances down to the micron. It happened when an owner, told by the factory that his car could only be serviced at an authorized facility 3,000 miles away, decided that this was not ownership at all, but a leash dress in carbon fiber and Italian leather. It happened when a technician, trained on Formula One gearboxes, realized that the same engineering principles applied whether badge on the nose was sacred or obscure, and that skill does not ask permission from a brand. It happened when a YouTuber with a camera and an engine hoist showed the world that a 7-figure machine is, at its core, still an assembly of nuts, bolts, sensors, and systems complex, yes, but not unknowable, not untouchable, not beyond the reach of someone willing to read, to learn, to try, and to fail forward. The manufacturers built walls. They wrapped those walls in exclusivity and called it prestige. They controlled the tooling, the software, the diagnostics, the parts pipeline, and most importantly, the narrative that said you are not qualified, you're not authorized, you are not worthy of understanding what you paid for. But narratives, no matter how expensive, are fragile things. They crack the moment someone demonstrates an alternative. And that is precisely what has been demonstrated not with rhetoric, but with results. Cars that were declared total losses have been rebuilt. Components that were said to be unavailable have been reverse engineered, remanufactured, and in some cases improved upon. Owners who were told to wait 9 months for a part have had it fabricated in 9 days. This is not recklessness.